is it you can play so well one night and lose, and the very next night you bemoan your team's play and they win? It was that way this week in Toronto. Monday night in Ottawa, the Maple Leafs had energy. They played with tenacity and lost when a pair of unfortunate bounces cost them 2 points. 24 hours later, and Toronto's successful formula seemed to disappear. They struggled, and solid goalkeeping kept them in until 2 quick strikes brought them success. We'll see which Leaf team's enthusiasm is on hand tonight.
A beautiful night in the Big Smoke and a perfect evening for a hockey game to break out at the Air Canada Centre. A few familiar faces in town this night with a plan to leave TO with a win. Vinny, Marty, and a kid named Steve, but the home team might have a different plan of their own. Welcome everybody to Molson Canadian Leaf Nation pregame show presented by Tim Hortons. I'm Jody Vance and this is Leafs Nation HQ. Glad you could be here for the pregame show. Always joined by Joe Bowen, who is going to be calling tonight's game on Rogers Sportsnet at 7:30. Puck drop. Mark Morrow, who you remember from the Toronto Marlies as the captain, but
probably
currently,
not.
Oh, they will. You're unforgettable, my friend.
Don't forget
Senior reporter down there, Paul Hendrick. We couldn't do the show without our Henny. Lots to cover off tonight as the Lightning take on your Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to get you all primed up for the big game, if you will, as Luke Shen and Steve Stamkos will face off, and it all starts with the headlines brought to you by Ford, powered by you, Paul.
Jody, headline number 1, Stamkos versus Shen, 2 of the outstanding young players in the National Hockey League, center stage here tonight. Headline number 2, it's old math, but new-fashioned results. PK plus D equals points, and the Leafs are hoping to figure in prominently in that regard when the numbers add up here tonight. Well, Joe, what is it about these young kids, beyond talent, that has enabled them to thrive in the National Hockey League at just 19 years of age?
Well, I think, Paul, one of the things you really have to look at is both parents. And the parent groups of both of these boys have kept them under wraps to the extent that they do not have to get a new hat each week in order to fit the swelling head. Doesn't happen with these two guys. They have their feet very firmly on the ground. They both understand the limitations that they're under as they try to grow in the National Hockey League. They have taken small steps in order to get going. Luke Shen has been a delight in the Leafs. He has stood up for teammates in this instance. He has certainly played under a lot of different circumstances. And Steven Stamkos got going slowly, didn't see a lot of ice time, but with all the changes that have been made with the Tampa Bay Lightning now, he's playing a lot more and delivering a lot more.
Well, Luke Shen plays in his 57th game for the Leafs tonight, the identical number of games that Thomas Caberlet played in as a rookie on the blue line for the Maple Leafs a decade ago. And as far as his buddy Stamkos is concerned, he knew that Steven would get it turned around eventually despite a slow start in October.
Yeah, well, he's so skilled and he's got so much talent. It's just a matter of time. He's still obviously 18 years old entering the league, and it's a tough adjustment for anyone to do. So, no, I guess he's getting more of an opportunity lately and played a little bit more, and he's obviously taking advantage of it.
I know you look forward to playing guys that you watched when you were younger, but how about taking on guys that you know, and he's a forward, you're a defenseman? I mean, do you look forward to games like these?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Getting the chance to play your buddies, I guess, who are the same age as you. So, no, I'm definitely looking forward to it, and it's pretty cool to see, like I said, guys the same age as you getting the same opportunity.
Do you find yourself at times paying attention to the other first-year players, measuring yourself against them at all during games, or is there too much happening for you to be able to single guys out?
No, not really. I mean, obviously you're aware that if there's a guy your age or close to you, you're aware of that, if they're playing on the other team or not, but you don't watch them too much. You just got to kind of worry about yourself, and they're just another part of the team, and wearing the opposite colors.
Well, Mark Morrow, we look at the outstanding numbers for these two kids. Hard to believe that there was a debate raging on last fall about whether or not to keep them in the National Hockey League or send them both back to junior.
I don't think we as media especially were well aware of how mature these two players actually were. You heard Joe talk about it. A lot of it has to do with their upbringing and just their overall maturity levels, that they could step in and handle this type of pressure and handle that. They've done very well. Stamkos gone through a lot of changes there, had a very slow start. He only had a couple of points in his first 17 games, and we saw the numbers there a minute ago. He's improved tremendously. He's gotten a lot better and progressed as the season's gone on. We all know the story of Luke Schenn. It just seems like he's better each and every game. He gets more ice time, becomes more reliable, more physical out there. And these guys, to think that it was even a question at one point about sending these guys back to junior seems foolish right now based on the way they've played, especially in the second half of the season.
Headline number 2, PK plus D equals points. The Leafs hoping to continue their great fortune in terms of the penalty kill. And Joe Bowen, one has to wonder what has gone on here for a team that has been a perfect 15-15 the last 4 games, and over the last 11, 92.5% success rate on the PK.
Where do you think this team would be if that statistic had borne out through over the entire course of the season? They'd be right knocking on the door as far as the playoff position was concerned. But the bottom line was goaltending. And when your best player or best penalty killer is your goaltender, that's exactly what happens. And that's what's happened over the last 11 games. Whether it be Vesa Toskala, Martin Gerber, or Curtis Joseph, they've played very, very well. The other thing that's interesting is that Boyd Devereaux, Ben Andrus, people who have come up from the Marlies who have had really a good base of being the defensive guy in the American Hockey League and being asked to play that role here in the National Hockey League is giving them something to really kind of hang their hat on. And I think both of those players have done an exceptional job in adding to the situation. They've lost Antropov, they lost Dominic Moore, but those two guys have filled in very nicely, and they've been taught well at the American Hockey League level.
They certainly have, and that's part of the reason you go there, is to be taught well and is to go out and prove yourself and take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves.
Well, penalty kill is all about keeping the puck out of the net, obviously. The Leafs have combined to block 886 shots so far this season. Certainly evidence of that is number 4, Jeff Finger, and he has his theories as to why the penalty kill has been working so well as of late.
I think we've been asked this a couple times now. I think it's a lot of it is the goaltending has been awesome for us. We've been obviously conscious of it just because it's been one of our weak points all year, so we've been paying a little more attention to it, just making sure we're prepared for each team that we play. And, as I said, the goaltending has been great.
One of the techniques that Ron Wilson was teaching at the beginning was the defenseman in front of the opposition. I know a lot of times you guys are behind them, but the whole point was to get in front, block those shots, and you lead the team with 128 block shots. I mean, is that the system that's working for you as well, or have you always been the kind of guy to throw your body in front of the puck?
I guess that's kind of always been part of my game, but now with the new rules, you're not able to battle in front as you used to with the cross checks and stuff like that, so you're not able to do that anymore. And that's all part of it, to get in front of them, front the shots, as opposed to try to get the guy out of the front, because you might take a penalty if you're battling a bit too hard, I guess.
Well, Joe, Luke Schenn leads all Leafs in hits with 171. Jeff Finger, looking by his face and body, has 115 hits. Are you surprised with how physical this blue line has been this season?
A little bit, I think, Paul. But I think that the one thing that the coaching staff had asked them to do at the beginning of the year was to play physical, play with intensity, play with the situation of never giving up and working with a lot of enthusiasm. And the other thing they asked them to do, especially defensively, play with 2 hands on the stick, stay out of the penalty box, take away the holding calls, and like Jeff Finger was saying, you can't get in there and bang and crash anymore, so block shots. And they have done that. They've done a masterful job, a lot more than they did a year ago, and it shows on the visage of people like Jeff Finger and various others when they're leading with their nose instead of their shin pads.
Definitely battered and bruised and still going at it. Joe, thank you for being here as always, and we'll send you upstairs. Rogers Sportsnet, you have the play-by-play call tonight, of course. Thank you very much. Up next on the program, still lots to come as we count down to the puck drop for the Lightning and the Leafs. Greg Millen's going to stop by and get on a little bit of a rant, I'm sure, in Millen's Minute. We'll also talk a little bit about this guy, Steve Stamkos. That's straight ahead on Molson Canadian Leaf Nation pregame, presented by Tim Hortons. Stay with us.